So let's get into the actual topic now. Now this is something, Wasiyyah, everybody here, brothers and sisters included, they have to go through this once in a lifetime. So you have to know the basics. And some of you might be thinking, well, brother, I don't even have any money, why should I even worry about making Wasiyyah? I probably have just $1,000, $2,000 in my bank account, and I don't earn a lot. I don't have nothing basically. So why should I even worry about studying this even or learning this? So the answer to that is, it's very simple, that Wasiyyah, it's not just about money. It's not just about money. Especially in this country, Wasiyyah is very, very important, and we discussed briefly last time how your burial process, your janaza, your autopsy, your many things that you can mention in Wasiyyah, we'll see here. It's so much important. So you have to be aware of this, and how this Wasiyyah needs to have witnesses and executors and so on. So we will mention it. So you need to know some basic things. Not going to go in too much detail, but you should have this minimum information, because you will be doing your Wasiyyah once in your lifetime. So even the kids here, when they grow up, they will have to make their Wasiyyah, and they have to not only make it, they have to understand it. So they have to know some basic principles. So let's go one by one. Let's cover it. So basically this Wasiyyah starts with, obviously the basic information, who you are and everything. And most important thing is that when you write a Wasiyyah, it's a common practice that you have to mention that you are in a good state of mental health and so on. Because sometimes Wasiyyah, even though you write, some people, if they don't like, your inheritors, they don't like, what they do is they claim in the court that this person he had mental problems, so his inheritance, his will should be cancelled and so on. So they might play games with you. So that's why that is a very common practice, that you put that clause there that I'm in a good mental health, I'm not influenced by any medication or hallucinations and so on. So you mention that. That's the general thing. And then there's one thing that is usually not written, but I really like that part, wherein you put like the Islamic instructions in your Wasiyyah.
No.
So what happens is, this had been the practice of all the scholars and everybody there. So what they do is, they mention obviously that they're a Muslim, and also have the Shahada, Kalimatu Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, and so on. And they advise people in their Wasiyyah, and that's the part I really like. They advise people, their relatives, their friends, and they advise a lot of things. I mean, for example, imagine a person, he tells his son, for example, be a good son, leave these haram actions, son, and don't do this, don't do that. So all his life he didn't listen to his father. Now his father died, now the will is brought, and now he reads his father's will, and in that it says, I advise my son, my children, to stay away from haram actions, this and that. So now, this might impact that person. Now, whole life he said, don't do this. Now he's reading his father's will, so that might have an impact on him. So this is considered a very, very effective medium. You have to have some instructions and advice to people. People will care a lot, because sometimes a person's value, people raise the value after they die, and it becomes suddenly a big thing. So people change. We've seen this. People change because of this. So it's very important that you do this. And also, you mention, this is the part again very important. By the way, when you write Wasiyyah, the government also will really respect it. So as long as it's done in proper way, through legal means, they will accept it. So you have to mention there that I do not want autopsy and embalmment on my body. So now, even if you don't have money, if you say that, hey, I'm not going to make Wasiyyah if I don't have money, and if you die, government will say, no, we want to do autopsy. Nobody can stop us. So you don't have a will. So these wills will protect you, and you can say this is un-Islamic, unless it's of course required by criminal investigation or something. But in general cases, you can block it by having it in your Wasiyyah. And also you can mention about your funeral. how you want your funeral to be. Usually people don't really care, right? You go to even Muslims' funeral these days. What do? What kind of bidas do they have usually in funerals? They, for example, start crying, wailing, and all these things, right? And they have all kinds of, customs, wear black clothes, flowers, and music, whatever. So some people can bring up, look, this was the wasiyyah of the deceased person. He clearly mentioned that I don't want people wailing for me. I don't want flowers and these kind of music and everything. So people will respect it. So you are not here all the life. You are like going with Quran and Sunnah, and now you are dying, and people are doing wrong things at the wrong occasion. So this is something you can stop. Again, this is not related to money. This is something you can enforce. People have to respect. And you cannot say that, no, I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't really care what his wishes were. This becomes very, very important. You have to obey all whatever the deceased has written there. And also Islamic burial. So if you die, government sees that there is no wasiyyah, takes it and just buries the way it seems appropriate. Takes it and buries you in the way the Christians are buried, for example, in encasement and whoever among the non-Muslims. But here in your will you can specify that I want an Islamic burial. Basically that means I have to be washed according to the Islamic rules, taken to the masjid or wherever and washed properly according to the sunnah, kafur being applied and all those things that we discussed in the seminar. And then I want, for example, my janazah prayer to be prayed. And you can specify, I want this and this grave for my burial, so and so grave. You can specify that and people will respect, and even you have to respect. The type of grave as well, especially the way that people do, it's not correct. The non-Muslims, we discussed about this, right? There are three kinds of grave. What was the most common and sunnah way of doing it? What kind of grave is it? Lahad grave. So that's where you can again specify, I want a lahad grave. Some people are not that caring about it. So when you die, your preferences are not being communicated to people. So this is the document that will help you communicate. So, and again, you can specify like if you go through government, they are going to take their time. Usually they take 2-3 days. They keep it in the freezer and they do all processing and then they bury you. But Islamically, how long you should wait for burial? Quickly, as soon as you die, you just go hurry up, because the person is in a, we discussed this, how his feelings are at that time, right? He wants to get buried as quickly as possible. He wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get involved in that process of the life of the grave. So that's what the best thing we can do for the deceased person, to bury him quickly. That's exactly what he wants, to get buried. But if you don't have a will, government is going to take over and they're going to say, we're going to bury whenever we feel appropriate, when paperwork is done. But if you have it here, government will say, okay, since he had the wasiyyah, we'll release the body immediately. You can appoint a person who will lead your janazah prayer and who will dig your grave, maybe that one as well, and you can mention where you want to be buried, which place. And obviously, everybody has to listen to that. And of course, some people might be like, I want to be buried in Medina, that's it. So that's not feasible, that's not practical. So we will discuss how you can invalidate few parts of wasiyyah, but there is a way, an opportunity for you to specify a few things. And by the way, the most important thing, we're going to talk about it, yeah, it's coming next. Declaration of assets. This of the obvious meaning, purpose of the wasiyyah is to declare everything, your wealth. It's not just bank account. We mentioned there could be cash, properties, trusts that you give to others and everything. So everything has to be documented, right? And dues to Allah. What do you mean by dues to Allah? And also the zakah, right? Nobody cares about it. This person might have lived the whole year, but he didn't pay zakah. Probably he was sick or something, was not able to give. But this clause will take care of it, that my father didn't give zakah, I have to take care of it. So dues to Allah, you can mention that, hey, I was if I have pending zakah, my people should take care of me. And also people usually have fundraising pledges as well, right? So you can mention that, hey, I pledged $10,000 for the masjid construction, but I didn't give, so somebody please take care of this after I die. So you can specify it here, otherwise it's going to be a problem. Same thing with dues to people as well. You took loan and you took debt from people, you died, you are in big trouble in the grave, really. That's so serious. And we mentioned whole lecture about how serious it is. People take it very lightly. So you have to mention in a piece of paper that I took debt from this person and I did not return. So please return it at the earliest. So before even calculating all those inheritance shares and everything, you have to mention it.
That the dues to people, that means Muslim and non-Muslims.
Everything, yeah, everything. Yeah, the punishment in the grave is not going to be, forgiven, regardless whether it's Muslims or non-Muslims. You owe them that money. And also, it's not just debts, trusts. Some people say, they die, but they put, like, for example, a jewelry box or something, cash to some people. Brother, please keep it for 1 month, I'll take it later. So that's something you can put in Wasiyyah, that I gave this person this money, please collect it back when I die. So you can specify that. And same thing, the opposite, yeah, here, dues from people. You have to, like, take or give. So both of them are considered. So it's money is not a simple thing. You have to take into account everything. People just jump, okay, he left 10,000, let's divide it now. No, you have to wait and see everything and evaluate your assets and go after it then. And then this is the main part, bequeathal or wasiyyah. What's the maximum percentage again? 1/3. So 1/3 of your property you can say, I want it to be given to so and so, given to the masjid. Doesn't have to be exactly 1/3, from 0 to 1/3, any amount. I want my grandmother's cousin's nephew to be given so and so. So whatever, it's going to be taken care of. What's the restriction though? Who cannot be included in this bequeathal? Warith. That's the standard. The standard here is, can a son be part of this? No, he cannot, because he is already part of the inheritance shares that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered. So any person who does not get inheritance can take from this. Okay. Imagine if a son is alive. Can grandson be included in bequeathal? If son is alive, can grandson be given as bequeathal? Yes, you can be given, because grandson, he's no way going to get an Islamic inheritance, because son is going to block him, right? So he's blocked, so he cannot get any heirship. But there is a way to specify bequeathal for us, right? So that's how you do it. And there's, and also mentioned that daughter cannot get any money from the inheritance. But if you really love or you want to give some money, you can again specify here, I want some 10% to be given to my granddaughter from, sorry?
Of that third.
Of that third, yeah, within that third. It cannot exceed 1/3 again. Now this is the part, Islamic heirship, that we have been discussing last 2 weeks. This is all the fractions here. Half goes to my husband, 1/3 goes to my whatever relative, and so on. So everything here. Can you come up with numbers for the relatives in here? Your own numbers? Can you decide which relative should get how much? There's absolutely no way you can specify. This one, the number 11, is fixed by who? Fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's fixed. There's no way you can change it. That's the point that you should remember. You cannot change how much son gets, how much mother gets, how much father gets. It's all fixed. You cannot change it. If you change it, you're going to be responsible in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Usually, if you're making a wasiyyah, you don't really need number 11, right? Why do you even need to mention number 11? Because there's nothing to talk about, because everything is there in Quran and Sunnah. So usually in Islamic countries, this part is skipped. But in this country, unfortunately, you have to treat it like a bequeathal. And that's why you mention it, my son needs to get this much share. Or you mention a table that 2:1, this is how you should distribute. So we'll go over one sample document, how these can be specified in will and testament in Islamic way. But in this country, unfortunately, you have to mention number 11, right? And the guardianship of children. Usually Salaf and other scholars from the beginning have been doing it. I want it to be distributed according to inheritance. So what happens is, this is the important part, again, not dealing with the guardianship of children. People, it doesn't deal with the wealth. But again, you have to mention it. You might not have money, but you can mention that if I die, where will my children go? So if you don't have if your wife has also passed away and you passed away, and the US government says there is no relatives, they will take over your children and give it to the foster homes. So you have an opportunity here that I have so and so relatives living in so and so place, that's my children should be handed over to them. And that's how you make sure that your children will grow as Muslims. But it's not just about making sure they go to your relatives here, but you can specify which relative you want your children to go to. You have many relatives. You have your brother, you have your sister, but you might say, if both I and my wife die, I want my uncle to take care of my children. Why? Because my uncle is very kind, very caring, very good towards children. He is maybe Hafiz al-Quran or very a scholar or whatever reason. You basically have a choice, and people will respect that. So you can mention who your children should be. But important thing here for you is that, what if somebody chooses you as a guardian of children? What you should know, what you should take care of, what you should remember before taking this responsibility. So this is a very big responsibility, taking care of guardianship of children. It's not a joke. You have to be very careful. You have to be very fair, very just. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself mentions in Surah An-Nisa, I'll just read it to you, verse number 9. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلْيَخْشَ الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. And let those fear of being unjust, as they themselves had left weak offspring and were worried about them. So let them fear Allah and speak words of appropriate justice. So basically, it means that if you have children, and if you are basically a guardian of children, you have to make sure that you treat them nicely and treat them like your own children. Just imagine, you might die, and what if others take care of your children? So just treat them as your children, so that you be fair to them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding you that take good care of these children, and think that your children might be going through the same thing later on. So be very careful. The most important thing is the financial aspect of it. So this child will get, for example, wealth in inheritance. So now if you are the guardian, you get all that wealth with you, right? So now you're like, oh, his money is my money and I'll spend it. No, you have to keep separate account for that person and make sure you do it very justly and spend just on him.
He can be paid for that.
He can be paid reasonable basis, as long as people agree on it. Basically, it can be like, I have $10,000, okay, my pay is going to be $6,000. It doesn't make sense. So there has to be agreed upon by either court or by some people around him. That's correct. And also you have to make sure that you treat him emotionally, very kindly, and give all the emotional needs to that person. You can't be like, okay, I'm taking care of his money, I'm feeding him, I'm clothing him. No, he is a child. He has some emotional needs, so you have to take care of that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question you otherwise, because all these elements in person's life you have to take care of. That's what guardianship means. It's not just about money or food. Also things like education, and also make sure that this person will understand religion knows the basics at least, so you have to make sure that when you are taking care of guardianship, all these things are taken care of. But doing injustice is a very severe sin. It's not a small thing. So if you do injustice, it's a big trouble. So that's why as a guardian you have to be aware of that. Alright, sorry, so let's funeral and burial administrator. I already talked about this, as mentioned, that you can specify. And if somebody, if a person died and his time of burial or janazah has come, and if somebody comes up with a document and says, I was appointed by this deceased person to take care of these affairs. So you have to respect him now. You can't be just like, no, I am his son, I am going to dictate how it should be. No, because when the deceased person has mentioned his preference, it has to be respected, no matter who it is. Okay, so that's something you should know. And the will executor, this is the most powerful person in this whole wasiyyah to be accepted. Your wasiyyah has to be legal. And we're going to talk about executors, and we're going to talk about witnesses. The role of these people is to make sure it is going to be according to the terms of the Sharia. And if any wrong statements were mentioned in wasiyyah, you can cancel them even after the death of the deceased person. Yes.